Entering the atmosphere in T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast from OmegaMetroid.com, a special Saturday edition of the show, and what a monumentous event to get us to this Saturday edition of the show. It is the first episode post-Metroid Prime 4. Wow, that feels surreal to say. Andy Spiteri, Doomino Crossing, Dakota Lasky. How you doing, guys?
We did it, guys. We're here. It's wild. Almost feels unreal, but yeah, we are in a post-Metroid Prime 4 world. I know all three of us have played quite a bit of this game now, more than we're even going to be able to talk about today. But yeah, it's an incredibly special moment. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
For sure. It's cool. Metroid Prime 4 is out. It's always awesome. It's always a great time, both in our community and the Metroid community in general, to have new Metroid to talk about. So, yeah, it's an exciting time. It's great to see some new Metroid, to play some new Metroid. I know all of us are going to be jumping right back onto it after we're done recording this. So, yeah, it's awesome. We're living in that post Metroid Prime 4 world. It's pretty dope.
Pretty crazy. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I just stared at the title screen for a long time and just soaked it in before we could go and before I started. And so it was just it was a pretty special feeling, 8 years that we've been waiting for this game, and obviously what are we, 18 years now from the last Metroid Prime game, proper Metroid Prime game, I should say. So regardless of some of the review scores and some of all that kind of chatter around the game, I think it's a really special moment and just a nice kind of breathe it in moment for Metroid fans that have been waiting for so long for this game. And I will say, so over the next couple weeks, we're going to kind of slowly talk about the game in segments, but and I'm not I'm maybe about halfway through, but I gotta say I'm loving it so far, actually.
What do you think?
Yeah. I don't want to get too much into my thoughts because obviously it's a really interesting position I'm in because I've almost beaten the game. I have 100% items. I have one lore skin that I'm pretty sure is not attached to the end game that I have to track down, and some other thing that I'm not gonna spoil related to the end game as well that I'm trying to 100%. So I'm in a pretty unique position where I've experienced almost the entire game up to this point, but I have to kind of save most of that for a later time and just kind of focus on those opening hours. But yeah, overall I'm enjoying it. I definitely have some critiques, but like I said, I'm gonna save most of those for a later time though.
Yeah, I think we're all at, like you said, we're at different stages of the game, and we're only going to talk about portions of it. But Doom, you said you're almost done with it. I think Andy, you're done with the ice belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just got to the ice belt, so I'm lagging behind a little bit. But I'm not in any, like you said, we waited 18 years for this game. I'm not in any rush to complete it, really. I mean, to put that into context, I think I was 14 years old when Metroid Prime 3 came out. I'm now 32 when Metroid Prime 4 came, which is egregious, man. That is literally egregious to think about. But yeah, I'm taking my time, both in terms of trying to enjoy it, but also I'm literally not rushing through it.
Yeah.
So, and then I probably won't go for 100%. If I don't get it, I'll do it again. I'll play the game again, but I'm going to try to get as much stuff as I can reasonably before I feel all right, yeah, I want to see the end of the game and beat it. So, I'm excited today, after we record this, to do the ice belt section of the game. So I'm excited to jump in and talk about the beginning portions of the game, which I believe we've all played. Yes. And I'm sure many people listening have also at least gotten through as well. So, yeah, let's definitely talk about it.
Okay, so for all our listeners, a little breakdown and some rules of engagement here of what the next couple of weeks, I would say, would look like on the show here. We're going to be doing the game in acts. So we're going to be covering the game in acts. So like today, for example, we're going to cover, since this is kind of like a special episode of the podcast, it's like a bonus one, we're going to just cover the very beginning of the game. So essentially what all of the previewers that released all the previews played and got to talk about. So that will take us from the start of the game up until the end of Fury Green. So we're not going to be talking about Viola. We're not going to be talking about Soul Valley. None of that today. But we will be talking about that on our regularly scheduled show. Next week, we're going to be talking about Soul Valley. We're going to be talking about Volt Forge. The week after that, we're going to be talking about Ice Belt and Flare Pool. And the week following, depending, because like Doom is a lot further than me, so I mean this depends on how it goes. But I'm anticipating the week following we're gonna do the Great Minds and kind of the end game portion there. And of course after that, like we'll open it up for questions. We'll do a deep dive on the story, the music, the future. Lots and lots left on the bone here. But in terms of the actual game itself, today we're just gonna be covering the opening, and we should transition that to just talk about our spoiler policy here for a quick second. We will give very, very clear warnings when we are going to be talking about something related to the plot. Luckily, I will say this halfway through the game. I don't know if there's a whole lot I would say constitute as spoilers for me so far. Doom, I'm sure it's probably coming as we get further into the game, so we'll be very careful about that as well. Tell everybody plainly, clearly, and just make it very, very apparent when we might be getting into something that even borders on spoiler territory, because we don't want to ruin this for anybody enjoying this for the first time, or maybe you're waiting till Christmas, or maybe you're finding this episode later. I don't know, but we'll be very careful with what we say.
Mm-hmm.
And so there we go. Those are the rules of engagement. I have a horror story, actually, to start us off with here today, guys. So I go on Thursday morning. I sleep in, okay? I booked the day off. It's like 9 o'clock. I wake up. The local GameStop opens at 10. I'm not in a rush. And I'm like, okay. I drive over. I get a coffee. I go pick up Metroid Prime 4. And actually, there was some dude in there complaining that the Silex amiibo had not arrived at GameStop yet. But, oh well. So I go and pick up the game. I come back home. And my Switch is in handheld mode. It's docked. It's in handheld mode, but it's plugged in. Sorry, not docked. So it's plugged in just like to a regular phone charger or whatever, right? And so I pick up my Switch. I pop out Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, and I put in Metroid Prime 4. My Switch will not turn on. It will not turn on, and I am freaking out. I'm like, oh my god, what is happening? And I'm like, oh my god, I bet you I left Hyrule Warriors playing, and I just popped it out and put Metroid in, and I've like broken my Switch on the day of Metroid Prime 4. Like, and I am like freaking out for like a hot, like probably 60 seconds, and then my inner voice is just like, regain your composure. Google Switch won't turn on, so I do. And I even make like an emergency phone call to my wife, and I'm like, what do I do? But then I Google like Switch won't turn on, and it's like, dude, you just gotta hold the power button for 20 seconds here, okay? And I do it, and my Switch works, and it resets, and I avoid a heart attack, and I fire up Metroid Prime 4. A lot of emotions.
That sounds horrifying.
It was awful.
Someone else in our Discord was also having
I was
a similar
thinking about
issue,
that.
like.
Yeah. I think it was Stalor. They were just like, my Switch isn't working. Oh my god. And I was like, oh my god, I'm the same boat as this guy. My Switch 1, I don't even think this thing will turn on anymore. Like it's been worn to dust. Very scary moment in the Spiteri household.
I had a not horror story. I booted up my Switch 2. I went to the eShop. I downloaded it in 15 minutes, and then the game was working, and I turned it on and played it. The wonders of modern technology. I didn't have to go to a store and buy a physical little plastic thing. I just went online and went to the eShop. I'll still probably buy a physical copy though, but I had a nice smooth online digital purchase experience.
Well,
I liked it.
I'm glad that you did. I will say I'm still like a physical ride or die, but there certainly is advantages to just buying your stuff digital. But holy cow, I was like, I was just like freaking out for a hot minute there. But we got it. I fired it up, and let's just start off with the title screen. Like Metroid Prime, I was a little bit worried actually that there wouldn't be like a proper Metroid Prime title screen with like the music and kind of some of the cool animations. And luckily, that was my fears were quickly dissuaded, because I thought the title screen, and maybe again it was just the anticipation of this game and this moment, but like I saw like the title screen on the big TV. I'm playing in quality mode, by the way, so it looks just like 10 out of 10. I sat there for like a couple minutes and just listened to that theme song and soaked it in. Doom, I'm sure you probably did something similar.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime like a super anticipated game comes out, I love to just like sit on the title screen, listen to the track play out at least once, and just kind of like, as you say, just kind of soak it in. And so I already knew that I was going to be doing that regardless when Prime 4 comes out. And yeah, very happy that because I'm in agreement with you. I don't like the new Nintendo trend where we just skip the title screen and we go straight into the game. So really happy to see that. Love the Nintendo Presents that preludes it, gives it this premium kind of special kind of presentation. And doesn't hurt as well that the title screen is pretty banging, if you ask me. In fact, actually, you get two title themes. So the one you get an original one when you first turn on the game, and then you get a brand new one for every subsequent time you turn on the game. So that kind of like that caught me off guard when I played the game for the second time. I was like, oh wow, that's different. Kind of like what Other End did with that, the regular title theme and then kind of the piano title theme. Although there isn't really like a dedicated piano one for this, but yeah, and I like both themes. I like the visual presentation, kind of the look of like the Lemorne artifact, and kind of the way it like kind of creeps in and out and almost creates this like kaleidoscope effect. I think is really cool. We might have to revisit our favorite title screens in Metroid again and see where this ranks amongst them.
We might, yeah. I don't know if it's a contender to dethrone like Metroid Prime or maybe even Echoes, but like this is a great title theme, I thought, and the music. I felt like I was pretty confident the music wouldn't be kind of like I'm gonna bury Metroid Dread here, but like Metroid Dread, I feel like we can all say had maybe an underwhelming soundtrack. I didn't think that this would be like that either, but hearing that opening title theme, I thought like really kind of gave me the good feeling like, okay, we're in good hands here. Like this is going to be an exceptional musical game. I felt like.
I'll just add that I think, because I haven't booted it up the second time, but it was nice to let it like kind of rock. I was a little worried that maybe some of the music wouldn't have that like kind of groovy element, like that kind of funkiness to it, and like had a little head boppiness to it. And if you let it run for a while, it does. I don't know if that's necessarily reflected in the rest of the game, but at least in the title screen, I was sitting there, I'm like, ooh, okay, like I'm liking this. This is nice. So I agree. But the title screen's awesome. It looks cool. The music's great. They're very clearly leaning into that Silex theme inspired guitar in there, which I think kind of gives the game, the sound character of the game its own kind of identity, right? I'm butchering musical terms, but I don't know, it makes it stand out, I think, a little bit. Like when I think of this game, it's like the other games don't really do that with like that particular instrument, so it stands out a little way. So I like it.
I don't think you're butchering it all. Like that makes perfect sense. Like, every single game has their own kind of motifs or kind of like instrument selections to highlight, to kind of represent the themes of that game. And obviously guitar is like one of the big forefronts of this game to kind of push those ideas forward.
So just a quick roll call here. So we are all playing on Switch 2, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What mode are you guys playing on? Are you playing on performance, or did you fire up quality?
I think we talked about this. I'm doing quality 4K 60. If there was a 144, 120 FPS option, I would probably pick that. I think that's the best of both worlds. But like in terms of Metroid Prime, because it's not like it's not a big twitchy shooter. Like sure, there's still going to be like a big difference between 60 and 120, but because it's a little bit more slow paced, it's not as fast paced. It's not going to be as noticeable as it would be in like, CS:GO, for example. And so yeah, to me, like that difference between 1080 and 4K is like the bigger differentiator. So that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I'm playing on quality. I don't think it really matters. So I'm playing on one of my like side monitors at my PC, so I don't even think it supports 4K. But I just put it on quality mode, whatever. Yeah, I think in this game, like, you're not gonna, it's not as fast paced or effect heavy as like, a Destiny or Call of Duty or a Battlefield. So the 60 to 120 FPS difference is really not noticeable, even for someone like me who's very much an FPS like
Mhm.
very stringent on that. So I just went with that. I was like, it's probably not even gonna matter. So it's gonna look good either way. So like, I just put it on quality. I don't need performance. So
Mhm.
I'm sure I'm gonna do a run where I bring my Switch out to the big TV in the living room and sit on the couch and play it that way. But I've been streaming it, and it's just easier to just do it right here on my PC. So I just use one of my PC monitors. But I am playing on quality mode.
Yeah, quality for me too, and I gotta say, like, this game is running spectacularly on quality mode. Like, there's been no performance issues, no hiccups, no nothing. This is, I am going to definitively say on this show, this is the most graphically impressive game Nintendo has ever released. I think like it is. This is probably one, and Metroid Prime Remastered is probably two, and this looks just spectacular. I had it on the big TV. It looked like I was, like my wife said, like it looks like we're watching Avatar. Like it looks absolutely beautiful. It runs beautiful. I think as like a technical achievement, like this is like, say what you will about some of the games. Controls or story decisions or whatever. Like you can have your critiques, but man, this game looks, I mean, just spectacular, like unbelievable. So I was, and I think that's like a big selling point of Metroid Prime. Like you kind of have established that with the first Metroid Prime as well, being at the time you could probably say that was also the best looking game Nintendo had ever made. So it is kind of a nice to see that legacy upheld, and then when in a Nintendo that doesn't really go for that kind of presentation often. So it was really kind of cool to just see it on the big TV and just have that vibrant world of Fury Green just like really, I felt pop and look just spectacular.
Yeah, it is visually stunning, and yeah, especially like there's some stuff later on in the game as well that just like wowed me that we can't talk about yet, but I'm sure I'm sure there's one thing that we all have on our mind for sure. But yeah, it's just absolutely gorgeous. Obviously, Fury Green, as we're gonna talk about today, is just absolutely breathtaking in so many different ways. Even the opening Tanamar sequence just looks really cool as well.
Oh
I
my
love
god.
I love the gritty industrial side of Metroid 2, and I feel like Tanamar does a really good job of representing a lot of that. And so yeah, it's just an absolute spectacle to look at. It's every single time, because like I feel like once you play a game enough, like it starts to it almost starts to normalize and you adjust to it. And
Yeah.
and at this point, it's mostly happening with Prime 4, but even then, like I'll go across like a new room, or like I'll notice this detail in a previous area that I hadn't seen before, and I'll just be like, wow, that is so cool. Like I can't believe they thought to put all that extra detail in that spot for someone who's crazy like me who would peek into that corner.
Hmm.
Um, I mostly agree. I think yes, the game is very like technically looks amazing. I love a lot of like the environmental like design choices. Like it looks very nice. I'm still gonna say I think I prefer Town Overworld to Fury Green in terms of looks.
Hmm.
I think Town Overworld from Metroid Prime Remastered is executed a little bit better. But I think Fury Green, which I think is true of a lot of the game, has like that scale to it. Like Town Overworld does feel like it's not like, oh, this is like a huge area, whereas Fury Green, even though it's really not much bigger, does have that like sense of scale that feels really awesome and is pretty prevalent throughout the rest of the game. I think it looks really good. Yeah, I think one thing that it does really well is, we were talking about this on the Discord too, is that there are a lot of like things in the game, in that area and throughout the game, that make it feel like a little more lived in, like little creatures, and like you have the ants like walking around with like
Hmm.
pulling leaves around, and you have like the little worms that come out, like things like little like creatures that aren't necessarily enemies, right? But they're still part of the world. And certainly previous Metroid games have done that as well. But it really, I think, is a little more it's more in your face in this game in a good way. I think the one thing that there was one aspect of it that I was a little disappointed in. There's a little waterfall, and this is so nitpicky. There's a little waterfall in Fury Green that I was like, I'm gonna walk under this and like see what the effect is on like the visor. And like if you walk underneath it and look up, it just looks like your visor just has like water coming down it, like it was at a car wash, and not like water dripping down on it or whatever. And if you look at the water sideways, it's kind of like a thin pixel or something. Like, come on. But the rest of it I thought was very good. That was my one little nitpick for it. But the rest of Fury Green I think looks really great.
We need those like Samus windshield wiper blades on her helmet or something.
She does need that. Yeah.
I just think like just in general, like there's been a lot of areas where I've just like consistently walked into and just been like, holy crap, like this looks spectacular.
Yeah,
so obviously some probably parts you can critique, of course, but in general,
I'm sure I could do the same of remastered too.
Of course, yeah. Like
it's one of those things where it's like, if I stare directly at like a wall, like all of a sudden the wall texture looks a bit fuzzy, but that's because you're not supposed to be 1 inch away from the wall staring at it.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about the opening sequence here. We'd all seen this on the Treehouse presentation, but
and I played it. I'd already played it.
Yeah, that's true. You had played it. I gotta say, for me, like just like watching it again on my TV, like kind of in my setup, I was just like, oh my god, this looks so awesome. The sequence was spectacular, just to see in motion, and then of course like getting to actually control Samus when she jumps out of her ship on Tanimar was a pretty cool moment. And so my initial thoughts were like, this is very familiar Metroid Prime gameplay, which is good, I would say, for like the opening that you wanted to go into. You have all of your abilities, you kind of make your way through. The one thing I will say, and I don't know if you guys felt this way as well, it has taken me, I'm not even gonna say it's took, because I still do this, but it's taken me a long time to adjust to the scan visor button being on the opposite side of the controller. My muscle memory keeps on like wanting to go to the other side and like use the other joystick to select my scan visor. So I feel like frequently I have like pressed the wrong button to pull up my scan visor, which I don't think is a critique of the game, because I think it works like a lot better just being like one mapped button. But many years of muscle memory has just been like, god, like not this button.
See, that's interesting, because coming just from Metroid Prime Remastered, it controls, I think, the same as it does in that game. And so it felt great to me out, because I remember on the show last week, I was going to play with mouse controls. I'm just playing with the Pro Controller, the Switch 1 Pro Controller, because it's just easier. And I had it set up that way. So, and I don't have a mouse grip or whatever yet for the Joy-Con. So when I was playing, I was like, oh, this feels just like remastered control-wise. I was even a little worried, because I was like, please have bumper jumper, please. And it did. Being able to jump with like whatever it is, Z, do the L button, because I don't jump with B, I'll jump with that. So it felt very much like I just came from playing remastered. So that was really nice. That was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, it definitely took me a bit to adjust to the new scanning button as well. I think at this point, like it's pretty big muscle memory. I will say, and I'm not going to elaborate, because again, this is much later into the game. There is another ability that I get that I keep pressing the wrong button for, because that button is different in this game. So okay. I'll just leave it there. So that's a little bit of muscle memory that I'm still working my way through.
I feel like I could guess what that is. But yeah, I mean, other than me fighting myself for the scan visor, like I thought the like controls of the initial sequence were really familiar. They felt good. It felt like again, just like a really high polished experience, and kind of like a different like version of the opening tutorial that you would kind of expect from like a Frigate Orpheon or something like that. So yeah, I thought that was really nice. We got to the oh my god, what is this guy's name? Aberax, the boss fight. I thought that was like a fine boss fight. I gotta say, guys, I killed this guy in like a couple of minutes, way faster than that dude from the Treehouse presentation. I used lock-on. Let's talk about lock-on, actually. So lock-on you still have, but they take a mechanic from, I'm sure this is from a lot of other FPS games, but I was just like, oh, it's from Federation Force, where like you can kind of like free move around your reticle once
That
you're
was in
locked
the
onto a
trilogy
target.
too. That was in trilogy.
Yeah, it was in Prime. It was in Prime 3.
Was it in
Yeah,
Prime?
it was in
Okay,
Prime.
okay.
That was
I feel
the
like
whole, that was a big part of Prime 3. You
I guess because like
needed
you
to
have
it.
the Wiimote, yeah.
Yeah,
I guess for me,
so-
I always thought like the Wiimote was like very precise, where Federation Force, I remember fighting with it a little bit more. But how do we feel about that? I felt like actually it's been like really good. Lots of settings that you can mess around with to adjust that. Lots of settings in this game, I would say in general, which is really nice. Yeah, how did you feel about the free aim?
I really like it, and I actually kind of wish it was utilized a little bit more in the game. Like, there's definitely other enemies that use it, but it's actually I expected it to be utilized quite a bit more after that fight because it was such a big piece. And so that's I don't want to say that's a pretty nitpicky critique. Is overall, I don't think it would change my thoughts on the combat that much if it was, but I mean that it is something I like, so I was just kind of surprised that we didn't see more of it. And I was actually surprised how well it handles with just the analog stick, because I'm not using the any of the gyro controls or any. I'm just using the regular sticks. And so I was so I get my concern was like, oh, this is only going to be advantageous if you're using the gyro when you're aiming, but it's actually fairly easy. They have like a really nice snap system that you can use when manipulating the right analog stick when you're locked on, and it feels pretty nice while still giving you a little bit of a challenge as well. So yeah, I was actually pleasantly surprised, and a pretty decent tutorial boss, all things considered.
Yeah, I will say I did try the mouse controls for like a brief moment before going back to the controller just to like see, and being able to be locked on and then have the precision of the mouse control, like that's I think where it shines the most, because you are able to like quickly boom 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 like with your hand, rather than kind of like navigating with your dual analog, which is more of like a pushing the reticle into position rather than like really actually putting it where you want it. So I think it shines the most there for people using that kind of controls. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. You know, it's where it's implemented. It's fine. Yeah, I think it's cool.
That was kind of my assumption too, Dak, is like I imagine this is a lot better when you have like free movement to position the reticle a little bit more. So I wasn't too fussed that there wasn't like more of this in my playthrough so far, to your point, Doom. But I thought that it was a cool feature. And you know what, I will shout it out again, actually. Speaking of Federation Force, like, it was pretty sweet to see those golems again. Like, I know, okay, Federation Force, and I know that we've already seen them too, but there was something about seeing these where I was just like, oh my god, yes. So very cool stuff. Still waiting to get more. I mean, we'll talk story later, but the Metroid here that is fused itself to Aberax, I think is a really cool touch. I like that story beat. Still waiting to see a little bit more of that, but yeah, I thought the opening salvo here, as we've seen before, really strong. Very good tutorial, but of course things really pick up when you get to the planet Viewros. And it was also pretty cool, by the way, worth mentioning too, just seeing that Silex scene again, seeing him walk in. Very cool stuff. Looks fantastic. But yeah, I thought actually that when the artifact started and it transported you to Viewros, I thought that was like a really kind of cool ethereal moment. Like, it's always tricky, like how sci-fi is going to present, like when you go through like a black hole or like a time warp or something like that. Like, it's interesting to see what they do, and I thought that this was like a really cool ethereal kind of take on that.
I will say that I had a little bit of, and I said this with when I had originally played it, because I still think the scene is kind of a little awkward, how there are people being shot around Samus and she's just like looking around, not doing anything. I was watching this cutscene again. I'm like, come on, let's go. A little urgency, man. Like, come on. But I had a little bit of ludonarrative dissonance there, because to me, how I play Metroid Prime is like, sometimes I'll just tank damage. And in my head, I was like, Samus could have just stood there and took the shot from Silex, and none of this would have ever happened. The game would not have happened. Silex could have hit Samus. Samus would have survived the shot, and Silex's beam would have never hit the artifact, and then Samus could have beaten Silex, and then we would have been totally fine. But because she had to like do a dive or whatever that I, as the player, would never do, I was like, come on, like this could have been all avoided if Samus you just stood there and tanked it and put a super missile between his eyeballs. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
Well,
because
see,
Samus jumped, all these
Samus
Retro
was playing
Studios
on-
devs had to spend 8 years of their lives
Exactly.
doing this game. God.
See, what you forgot though is that Samus was playing on Dread mode, so she couldn't take the shot.
Okay. You know what? Fair enough. You got me. That's true. That's fair.
I will say, so I really enjoyed the opening, and this is probably like a Doom nitpicky critique here. You know, there's obviously, you know, after the preview event, you know the voice acting and the characters was like a huge like point of contention for a lot of people. I will say, for the most part throughout the game, I think the voice acting ranges from fine to good with a couple of exceptions. Tanamar, weirdly enough, the voice acting feels very stilted here. I'm not a fan of a lot of the dialogue options here in the opening mission. It feels like everything feels like it's in a recording studio and not like a real war zone. And as someone who has played, you know, like a lot of like milsim shooters and stuff like that, I've just seen a lot better example. Heck, I think Prime 3 actually did a lot better job with a lot of the voice choices, but again, very nitpicky critique there. And I think after Tanamar, I think a lot of the voice acting actually improves quite substantially.
It does kind of have like an other Emmy voice acting feel to it. I'm not saying it's horrible, but I do agree. There are like we're in an active war zone, and some people are kind of like there's no energy or like exasperation behind their voices. I don't think that's an unreasonable critique. I will say though,
what are these pirates after? They must be after something. Everyone's like enunciating everything and like
I will say though, there is one point when you're outside and you fight the pirates that are coming out of the drop pods and the big mechas there. There's a group of Federation troopers who are kind of grouped up around like this debris or whatever. One of their troopers has like died, I guess, and you can talk to all of them. And they're like, one of them's like, oh, like if I had been more prepared, this wouldn't have happened. And the other one is like, you know, oh, what are we gonna do? And I was like, I like this crew. Like, let me fight along this little crew here. I like these guys. And then of course you don't. But I think ultimately it's fine. It does feel very like kind of like new age Zelda and Fire Emblem-y and like the voice acting direction. I wish it was a little bit better executed, but it wasn't like game breaking for me. But I agree. When I was talking, because I was going around and talking to every individual person to see if I could.
Same.
And some of them I was like, you seem pretty calm for what's going on around you. Like this place is exploding, and you're like, well, we got to defeat these space pirates before they get to the important thing. And I'm like, hey, man, like all right, I'm going to move on.
I watched the Street Fighter 2 anime, and Ryu, he has to get to a place where there's no distractions. There's only the mission.
I get it. I understand why Andy doesn't have this critique. He didn't watch Saving Private Ryan, so he doesn't understand what people are supposed to sound like in a wartime situation. I totally get.
You know what? I will say there's not as many people as I thought that were just like, dude, you haven't seen Saving Private Ryan? Like, what the heck? There's only a couple.
Someone else like, I haven't seen it either. I'm like, open the schools.
Fair. I will say I feel like I didn't notice any discrepancies with voice acting. I feel like for me, like maybe I'm more tolerant of voice acting just because I am like more of a like JRPG fan. So like I feel like
feels very JRPG to me, the voice acting 100%.
You need to play some of the JRPGs I've played. I feel like as long as it's not like offensively bad, I'm just like, yeah, okay, this is fine. So I can't say that I shared that, but I mean, valid. I will say though that I think I'm jumping ahead here a little bit, but I think that the voice acting for all the major characters that you get in the game has been quite good. I don't know if you guys would agree.
I agree.
I agree with that.
Yeah. As I said, I think after Tanamar, like the overall voice direction improves like pretty substantially. I think again, nothing like nothing that's going to be like Oscar worthy or anything, but like satisfactory. I think.
Yeah, like enough that it's not distracting, which I feel like is what you're going for here. Okay, so we get to Viewros. This place just looks... I'm going to say this probably like 1,000 times the next couple weeks, everybody. I'm sorry. But this looks spectacular. It just... The great tree, I thought, just was so cool. It literally did look like Avatar. I'm excited to see Avatar coming out in a few weeks, by the way. I was like taking it in. I was going slow. I was just like kind of very, very slowly just kind of progressing here a little bit. Of course, we go and we meet, or I can't remember the exact sequence of events, but you eventually find pretty quickly the Lemorn. And wouldn't you know it, Samus is the chosen one that they have been waiting
No
for.
way.
Can you believe it?
Can you believe it?
I was about to say before we.
Yeah,
I was about to say before we
go
talk
ahead.
about Fury Green, we got to talk about the Chrono Tower, because I actually love that opening sequence. at the
You're
Chrono
right.
Tower.
I'm conflating them. You're right. I'm sorry.
The Chrono Tower is dope. Like when you walk across that like little bridge and you can look all the way
Yeah.
up through. I was like, wow, this is actually looks super sick.
Yeah.
I love the Chrono Tower. But then you talk to a Lemorn pretty much right there. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that Lemorn alive? Because the Lemorn is like, I'm the last
I think so.
Lemorn priest.
No.
Is that Lemorn meant to be? Because I didn't think so, but how they were talking made it sound like they were.
No. I don't think it's too much of a spoiler, but there's if there's one thing you can, if you pay attention to some of the scan logs, because you'll occasionally scan more of the statues where it'll do that, and if you scan the statue a second time, it'll say that it's a psychic recording. That's the official
I
wording they
see.
use.
Okay.
So whether or not this Lemorn is still alive, I don't know yet.
We
I
don't
have
know,
a feeling. I have a feeling we'll learn in the end game. But at least these little presentations we've seen where it's like all purple and violet, to my understanding, those are psychic recordings.
That's what I figured.
that
I
makes
was
more
kind of.
sense.
I was like the dialogue. I was like, oh, are you alive somewhere? I don't know. Yeah, I will say, like you get there and the Lemorn is like, you're the chosen one, and you have to save the Lemorn and put the memory fruit on another planet or something. I was like, they can't be the good guys. It's being played way too straight for me. I hope, because if they are literally playing it straight and this is actually the plot, I'm a little disappointed because like this Lemorn's like, yeah, you got to go and plant the Lemorn, the mystery fruit on another planet and whatever. I'm like, this sounds so sketchy and sus to me. This cannot be being played straight, because if it is, that would be like super lame. So I hope that I'm pleasantly surprised there and the Lemorn are actually the bad guys. Lemorn goes up to you, yeah, you're the chosen one and you're gonna put the Lemorn seed on other planets, and that's totally cool. Don't ask any questions. And I'm like, oh yeah, all right, buddy. So like that's the vibe I got. I got very sus vibes from the Lemorn right out of the gate.
I gotta say, I didn't consider that, but I wouldn't mind that at all, actually. But I am not holding my breath for that to happen.
Because if it's not, then it's too basic to like be the most tropey basic sci-fi story setup and not have it be a twist.
So I have some critiques of the game, but like I would say I'm like 90% positive, but I have two critiques that I'm going to bring up, and I'll save one for a little bit. But the first is like, yeah, the story is very just like on a planet, ancient alien race that isn't there anymore. Samus is the chosen one. Let's go. Okay. Like this story very much is like basically a copy and paste of Metroid Prime 2 so far. With the Grievers and the Ing kind of spot, it seems like they're the main enemies of the game, and Lemorn is kind of your Chozo-esque kind of beings or Luminoth-esque kind of beings. I was just kind of like when they were like, Samus, you're the chosen one. It's like, she just showed up, man. How do you know? Like...
You know what I thought? Yes, because it plays so basic sci-fi tropey story to me. That's why I feel like in the back of my head, I'm like hoping like there has to be a twist. I think it would have been really interesting. And again, I haven't beaten the game. I don't think it goes this way. But how interesting would it have been if they thought Silex was the chosen one or something? Like Silex showed up first, and they're like, "You're the chosen one," and then Silex is obviously a bad guy, so like just betrays them or something, and then Samus kind of has to like pick up the pieces. Like that would have been kind of interesting if Samus had shown up and a chosen one had already been picked and found. It was Silex, and obviously Silex is not chosen one material. That would have been more interesting to me than Samus showing up. They're like, oh, sick, the chosen one is here, and we can get right to it. But again, I you know, have not beaten the game, so we'll see.
I'm not holding my breath.
I will
but that'd
say-
be cool.
Yeah, I will say so. So Andy and I, we've already been through Ice Belt, so we already know some of the story implications there. I will say, Dak, there is, I would say, a fairly significant story beat that happens in the Ice Belt that you'll be experiencing soon. Near the end game, though, as I said, there's still a lot of unanswered questions that I imagine are going to be answered once I get there.
Yes. So yes, you're right. I had it backwards. You start off at Chrono Tower, and this place. Stop me from saying it. I mean, this place looks spectacular. Like the way that the game just kind of like, I think that according to the scan logs, it's like nano machines that make up all like a lot of the psychic abilities and stuff like that. But it just looks like magic. They look awesome. I love how like the temple is designed. I saw this amazing blue sky post, which I will not repeat here, but it was very funny, and it referenced our pal David Jaffe as well. So I thought the whole temple was great. You get the psychic crystal, which is great, and really the psychic crystal seems so far to be like the major kind of thing that you get for the game, transforming your visor into the psychic visor, and that really it's a different kind of visor. I felt like so far, because it's definitely one where it's your scan visor, but it's kind of like, it's almost like an all-in-one type of thing here too, because like all of your abilities that you get that are tied to psychic abilities are done through the psychic visor. So like it's a different setup, and I think that if you're only going to do one visor for the game, and again, I don't know if there's any others that you unlock, but like I think if you are going to do only one visor for the game, this feels pretty strong to me as like a way to kind of integrate a lot of different abilities into that like one mechanic with your shot, with your different abilities that you get during the course of the game. So I'm digging the psychic visor so far as well. And I will say, jumping ahead, I'll just combine them. When you get the psychic glove, I had been a little bit worried that maybe moving some of the objects with the psychic glove would be a little bit monotonous. But I gotta say, actually, I'm not. I don't think it's been an issue for me at all.
No, I mean, a lot of the
Yeah,
stuff you got to do and manipulate is kind of like on tracks and on rails. Like you almost can't mess it up. I think this is probably going a little ahead, but I think my only gripe with it is that it is very convenient that all these psychic abilities that the Lemorn have are identical copies of abilities Samus has already had in previous games. It's
like I got the chosen one. Okay.
I was like, I got the psychic boots. I'm like, wow, crazy how they have the psychic boots, which are just like the space jump boots, identical in function and form. That's so impressively coincidental. But I do agree. I like the streamlining of like putting in the scan visor and tying it to other abilities rather than just like I gotta go to the scan visor and then the psychic visor. Just put them together. I think that's a good choice. I do hope other visors show up in the game, but at least for the scan visor, I like that has more functionality than just scanning. So I do like that choice.
Yeah, so there's a couple of notes. First of all, pretty much agree with everything you said. I think they did a really good job of like hybridizing those two together, and like also giving them similar control schemes. So like scanning is done with the lock-on button, but also picking up like a psychic mote once you get the glove is also done with that, and everything just feels really universal in a way that it like it coalesces together very nicely. I also really love the storytelling in the Chronos Tower before you get the psychic visor, where everything you scan, your system is like, I have no idea what this is. This is something this is something that we have never recorded in galactic history before. I have zero information. And then once you get that psychic crystal, it like transfers the Lemorn's database to you, and then once you start scanning, that's when you start like picking up all the new information and all like, you know, the technical specs of how everything works, like, you know, the nanomachines and how it integrates with like the psychic energy. Like I thought that was just like really awesome as someone who is addicted to scanning everything and loves like, you know, I want to know every single composition of like that blade of grass, and this game has been just absolutely serving on that front. So big fan of that. My biggest critique with the psychic visor, though, the music in this game is absolutely phenomenal. We'll talk about that a little bit more in depth in some future episodes. But when you're in the psychic visor, unlike the other Metroid Prime games, it turns down the music significantly, and it makes it a lot harder to hear it. And it sucks because I'm someone who loves scanning everything. I have that visor popped open quite a bit, and it's like, wait, but I want to hear this awesome music, and it's a little bit difficult to hear. So that's probably my one critique on the psychic visors. I wish that it didn't do that like the other visors in the Prime trilogy, but minor critique at the end of the day.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I've noticed it a few times too, where like I'll have my psychic visor up a lot, and it does kind of like you don't hear the guitar in a lot of the areas when you have your psychic visor up. So but on the other hand too, like I do kind of like that it kind of quiets down and allows you to focus. So like I agree with you. It's too bad, but I like it at the same time. It's kind of like a weird in the middle thing for me, but it would be nice if you could hear like the original like soundtrack of whatever area that you're in when you had the psychic visor. But I don't know. I feel like I'm okay with that decision as well because it allows me to focus.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't actually. I honestly didn't even really notice that until you just brought it up. To be quite honest with you, so I think it was fine. I will say because like. And this is also going ahead a little bit, but like in like the Volt Forge, for example, where like the music is just like non-stop.
It's very powerful.
It's like constantly going. I'm like, all right, give me a second till I get a little bit of reprieve. So I'm actually okay with that choice, and maybe that's why they made that choice.
Okay, so we're on Fury Green. We're exploring classic Metroid Prime gameplay. Again, I would say here, like just kind of the wow moments that you're looking for. I do think that there were some definite similarities to like Talon Overworld in exploring Fury Green for me. But we do have to talk about it because this dominated the previews that came out, and we are doing the same area, and we get to the point where. Oh no, or wow. I'm on an alien planet, no chance of survival, but at least I'm not sitting next to Stanley. So win?
Phil.
Phil.
Oh,
Phil in the cubicle. Come on, man.
How could I?
Phil in the cubicle.
Fake Metroid
The real villain of the Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is Phil. So Myles MacKenzie, he shows up, and you interact with him. I'm gonna just put my foot down on this right here, guys. Like, I think Myles MacKenzie at worst is like kind of annoying, and at like average or at best, I think he's kind of sweet, and the average is he's totally fine for me. I didn't have a single problem with Myles. I didn't have a single problem with his chatter. The one line that was kind of like a little bit groany was like, "It's about to get nerdy in here." Sure, that's a cheesy line, of course, but I did the mission over the bridge to get him across the bridge to base camp, and I thought that was like awesome because there was like all of these grievers coming at you. The music was going hard. I was having like a great time with that. I didn't even notice Myles, to be honest with you. I thought that Myles was totally fine. And am I off base here?
No,
I think this was this was ridiculously overblown. And look,
Yeah.
I still don't like his introduction to the opening cutscene. I think him wearing glasses underneath a mask that also has goggles looks really goofy.
No, I don't understand why. All right, I'll let you continue. But yeah.
But yeah, that aside, and like a couple of other like minor lines, like you mentioned the nerdy line. At worst, I didn't mind it, and honestly, at best, I think he can be endearing at times.
Yes,
there is something related to Myles that I don't like, but I'm not going to talk about during this episode. But it has nothing to do with his dialogue. His actual dialogue, I think for the most part, ranges from fine to actually like pretty decent. And so, yeah, insanely overblown.
Yeah,
part of the discussion.
There was a moment where he goes to Samus and he's just like, so like partners or something, and I was like, that was kind of sweet. Like, this guy, yes, he's supposed to be kind of annoying, but like he's kind of sweet when given the chance too. I thought it was totally fine. Dak, what do you think?
I think I have, of all the critiques I have of the game, he is the very bottom of the list at this point. I think he's totally fine. Like in the first 4 hours of the game, you're around him for like 10 minutes. max, and then he
Yeah.
talks to you over radio, like once in a while, and essentially works like the hint system. Like I, again, going ahead a little bit, but like there are many times in the game where I was trying to call him and I couldn't because the communications was down for whatever reason. I'm like, I'm trying to get a hold of him and I can't even get it, get that through. So I totally think it was way overblown. I think his writing is a little could have been better. I think the voice acting is okay, it's fine. I don't understand the critique of him having glasses underneath his visor and helmet, because that is a real thing. I literally was just go-karting last night and I wear my glasses in my helmet. What doesn't make sense is how his helmet then has goggles over the visor. That doesn't make sense to me. But him having glasses underneath his helmet makes perfect sense to me as someone who does that, literally just did that within the past 24 hours. I think he's like, I guess, I don't know. Like, he's totally fine. Like the bridge sequence you talk about, Andy, I think my only it wasn't even a gripe, but just something I thought was funny is his AI is very bad. Like, he's taking cover in a position that like is not cover. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, shoot your gun, use your pistol, please, like help me, Not that I need the help, but I'm like, come on, like squeeze the trigger a couple times. And then finally he does. But there was like one point where he's like taking cover behind like a little like a block that had fallen, and there are grievers like behind him hitting him. I'm like, dude, like you gotta pick a better position here. I think he was totally fine.
That he's just like such a geek. Like,
I like that he's a geek, but I
sure,
I think he could have been more compelling. But I think the reaction was just, made it sound like he was like going to ruin the whole franchise. I'm like, dude, like this character is so unoffensively fine, would it have been better if he's not in the game or maybe written a little bit more compelling? Sure. But like it made it sound like he was gonna other M the game, and like the characters, you're next to him for 10 minutes and then you leave him behind, like you talk to him a handful of times maybe over the next couple hours. Like I think and honestly, if anything, I was expecting the other NPCs to show up way sooner. I was getting through the game, I'm like, oh, I was expecting to have people to talk to this whole time. Yeah, so like I've gotten, like I said, to the ice belt, and I still have not gotten, spoilers to any of the other characters. So like, I think Myles is totally fine. I think the reaction was super overblown for sure. Could have been executed a little better, yeah, but not even remotely game killing like people made it seem in the previews.
I'm gonna say this. I posted this on Blue Sky, but I'm gonna double down on this. Like, I think that if you were someone that IGN or Eurogamer or wherever that was lucky enough to play this game beforehand and do the previews, and you dedicated like half of your preview to Myles MacKenzie, you should be ashamed and you should be embarrassed at your coverage, because like, Jesus, like this is so inoffensive that it is crazy how much discourse this guy got, who's going to live in infamy in the Metroid fandom forever now because of this. Like, I just that it's so wasn't a big deal at all that I thought, like, am I missing something? I actually think that it's more aggravating after the fact. Like, instead of getting the hints that you'd get in Metroid Prime, where Miles or messages you and says like, hey, check out this area, which again is incredibly inoffensive, but I just like couldn't. I kind of thought this would be the case playing it for ourselves, but I couldn't believe the degree to which like I thought that this was overblown.
Like I get it. Like, you have a character who's like, look at this thing, do that thing. I get it, but like at the end of the day, like I don't know. It didn't, even as someone. I mean, I've been playing Metroid games for 25 years of my life. Like, do I need someone to be doing that for me? No. If it was the whole game, I would totally agree. If it was even a longer portion of the game, I would have totally agreed. If he was by my side or in my ear the whole time, 100%. But for the very beginning portion of the game, and really what he's doing is he's not really doing anything that's like so invasive on the experience. Like, half the time I was already doing the thing he wanted me to do anyway, so it just like I just had to ignore the voice line. Like, it's not a big deal. I don't know. I get it if like maybe you suck at the game and then like you have this like idea in your head of what Metroid is supposed to be and you have nothing else to write about for that section because really nothing else happens. Like, I guess you want to get clicks on the article, fine. And I would want to hold people to good faith that they are giving me their fair opinion of the game, and if they don't like it, they don't like it. That's totally fine, cool. But I think ultimately, like, he could have been way worse. He could have been way worse. So
Yeah, and I think, and again, we'll probably elaborate on this in future episodes, but like, there are genuine critiques that I have with the game. This is far, far away,
literally at the bottom of the
one
list.
of those. Yeah,
yeah.
Okay, I have a critique right now that I want to give to this game. And so I have two major critiques about the opening little intro here. One was kind of the story setup. Two, I think we are at the point where it's super weird and actively detracting from what is happening that Samus doesn't speak. There is nothing wrong with having Samus say a few words to other characters. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that it's to the point now where, like, it's just weird that Myles and other characters have these one-sided conversations with Samus, and she does not say anything. I'm not saying she should be a chatterbox, but, like, there is no harm in having her say a couple of words, you know? Like, make her John Wick.
I agree. I won't say it's a detriment. I think it's fine, but I do think it would be better if, like, she could just, I mean, like, it would be like if you played Halo and Master Chief said nothing the whole time. Like, part of the appeal there is that, like, he has like a one line here and there that reminds you, like, this is a person in there, you know, and they have some, like, obviously Samus has some kind of thoughts, like she nods her head a couple times. I agree though. I don't see why I don't need her to go on a monologue. I don't even need her to, like, have a back and forth conversation, but, like, I agree. She could say, like, a couple words or something that, like, it just makes sense that someone would naturally speak. It's not like Samus is unable to speak. Like, we've played other games where Samus is, I mean, Fusion, she has full on conversations, you know?
Yeah.
I don't see why she doesn't. I wouldn't, it's not I personally am not bothered by it, and I don't care, and I don't think it's a critique for me, but I do agree that, yeah, like, there are a couple times where Samus could have been like, sure, or I'm on it, or say a little, like, something, like, maybe rib the guy real, you know, and be like,
hey,
all
Myles,
right, buddy,
you suck.
yeah, like, you suck, get out of my face, you know. I don't think that would be in character for her, but, like, I do think, yes, it is odd that she is not speaking at all and is kind of just, like, standing there, like, doing nothing, and I like that at the very least she nods. I'll give them that. She does nod a couple times. I'm like, all right, she's the lights are on in there, you know. But I wouldn't say it's a major critique for me, but I do agree.
Yeah, I think I'm in the DAC camp here, where it's like, yeah, I wouldn't, like, it's not going to affect my letter grade of the game by any means, but at the same time, and sometimes I actually think, like, the silent treatment works. Like, the time, like, when Samus startles Myles and he's like, "You are whisper," and she just kind of, like, stares at him like, "Dog, what are you doing?" Like that. I think that silence works really well. But there's other moments, especially some moments later on in the game, where you're having conversations with some of the other Federation soldiers, and they're, you know, there's scenes where, like, Samus should say something to, like, reassure this person's confidence without, like, spoiling anything too much, and it feels very awkward that, like, she just has no response. You know, I think you and I, Andy, we had a very similar critique of, like, Link in Tears of the Kingdom, where every single reaction was just like, whoa. Whoa. And obviously nowhere near that bad by any means, nowhere near like that, but it does give me, like, similar kind of vibes where it's like, really nothing.
I do think it is good. I like the moments where, like, her silence is obviously played for comedic relief, but there are other times where it's not, and she could easily just say a word or two just to be like, hey, like, someone's in there, someone's at home, you know, like, give me something.
Specifically, I think, like, I wouldn't say the intro here that we're talking about was, like, as bad, because it was used to good effect with Myles, but some of the Federation troops that you meet later, it is just like, oh, this is weird. Like, I feel like it's, I don't know, just nothing. Like, I mean, what's one of the best moments of Metroid Dread, right? Like, when Samus is speaking in Chozo, just like, I'm gonna finish this or whatever. Like, that might have been the greatest moment of the game. And I just think that, like, after Other M, I get it. Like, we don't want to do that again, but, like, don't let it scare you to make Samus talk, be relatable, be personable. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say like it's a detracting a letter grade for me either, but it's something that I feel like I've noticed in the game. And frankly, I needed to talk about something maybe that I didn't love because I love pretty much the rest of it. So
I'll give you probably what is my major critique of the game at the moment, and it comes in pretty early. Is, I know that it is the nature of Metroid Prime to be a slower paced FPS game. I'm totally okay with that. But going from Metroid Prime Remastered, where I can mash the charge, like the power beam, and like shoot as fast as I want uncapped, and also do fast missiles, and then go into this game and there's a cap on the fire rate and there are no fast missiles. That is very, very, very detrimental to my enjoyment of the game, because there is that first fight where the grievers or whatever show up after you meet Myles, and you're kind of just like in a gauntlet of taking them down, or even on the bridge. And I'm like, if this is Metroid Prime Remastered, I would have destroyed these things already. But because Samus's power, or her arm cannon, just fires slower and has a max fire rate that's slower than in Metroid Prime Remastered, like I'm mashing as hard as I can and I can't go any faster. I can't, like, the missiles feel punchier, but I can't do fast missiles. And I'm like, it sucks, because it's like, I wouldn't say it's skill expression, but it's like I'm choosing to try to do this faster, and I'm putting more effort into it, and it's not changing my experience. And that was a low-key a very huge letdown to me, because it slows down the combat in this game considerably. Even in the boss battles, you feel it, and that was a big letdown to me, because it feels like it doesn't have, like, there's no, I guess, like, spectrum of like, all right, I could fire at the rate they want me to, but if I put in a little more effort, I could get through this fight a little faster if I want to put more energy into it, or whatever, or use a little bit of a technique to it, and it just kind of flattens the combat experience to me. And I immediately felt that in the Fury Green area. And so that was a big letdown. That's like right now probably at one of my biggest critiques of the game, especially just coming from Metroid Prime Remastered, where you can do that stuff. So that's a pretty big letdown to me, and I think is detrimental to my enjoyment of the game and the experience so far.
Yeah, I don't mind the lack of fast missiles so much, just because that was a thing that's been gone since Echoes. Prime 1 is really the only one where you have fast missiles. 100% agree with you on the fire rate. That aggregated me. I don't know if the fire rate alone, I would say, would be like a huge critique, but I think it plays a role into a critique that I think we both agree on, and that while I think overall the puzzles in this game really show off, like, a new Metroid ideas. I think the puzzles in this game, especially with, in conjunction with the psychic abilities, really demonstrate like what's new about this game. Combat wise, I can't really think of anything, I'm sure, like, I really dive into the granular detail. Like, I know technically you can do like a forward and backwards dash now, for example. Like, I'm sure in the granular details there's some minute differences, but like on an overall level, I can think of like major differences between 1, 2, and 3. 4 really does not innovate in terms of combat, and I think that's especially disappointing 20 years later, especially because I know you and I, like, we've gone back and forth about like so many cool ideas that you can do in combat.
You can't melee in the game still, man. Like, why is it that if there's an alien in my face, I can't bash it over the head with my arm cannon? I 100% agree. Like, especially in an early game, it's like you either have your slow power beam or your slow missiles, and like that's it. And like, why can't I melee attack something? Why can't I fire faster? Why can't I do, the dash is cool, but like, let's be honest, like, unless you're playing on hard mode, you really don't need to be dashing forward and back really ever. Like, it's only kind of there like for cool effect. Like, I 100% agree. If like the combat, I was expecting to have a bit more of a leap forward in a more modern Metroid Prime game, and if anything, it feels like it's gone backwards from previous games, and then especially coming from the 2D games, which have innovated drastically on the combat, to then come to this game where I'm like, this feels like such a watered down experience combat wise. Was very majorly disappointing to me.
Yeah, and again, I'm not going to go into full details because some of that plays into stuff that happens much later after Fury Green. But yeah, and like you said, there's some stuff where it almost feels like we're taking a step backwards to an extent, and then on top of that, there just is very very little to no evolution going on. And like you mentioned, especially coming off Metroid Dread, which it's a 2D game versus a 3D game, but like that game really innovates in combat. That feels like, a next step up in Metroid. And it's like, man, I didn't necessarily need the exact same ideas in Dread translated into Prime, but I wanted that same kind of ambition on how we can tackle combat, especially for a game that's like, almost 20 years later after its previous entry.
Yeah, I guess I don't like disagree. Like, it would have been cool to have melee. I will say for me, I don't care like about the missile rate or the beam rate. I just charge my beams and shoot. I guess like I like combat isn't what I play Metroid Prime for. It is the exploration, it's the puzzles. So like I don't want to like not acknowledge that issue, because like that's fair, but I guess it's just like not a big deal to me. So
I mean, like, I'm not necessarily playing for the combat, but if you're gonna give me combat in the game, it should be an improvement, I think, on what I previously experienced, or at least be on par with, because I can't avoid the combat. I mean, there are certainly aspects of Metroid games, even this one, where like, and I think this is just a trait of Metroid in general, you can just run by enemies and that's fine. You don't actually have to engage in combat, but where you do have to engage in combat, like boss battles or like set pieces where you're forced to go through a gauntlet of enemies, I should be able to have as much fun or satisfaction or enjoyment, in my opinion, with the combat as I did at least in the previous games. Especially another game that's on the exact same system that just came out a couple years ago, that I just played a week ago, right? Like, to go from that, I'm like, this game came out 20 years ago and is doing the combat better than this game that came out yesterday, to me, was very noticeable.
Fair. Yeah, fair. I don't know. I guess I can't say that I've noticed it or it's bothered me, but I not to dismiss that, just I haven't picked up on that. But yeah, fair enough. I would have liked a melee button, I will say that. I think that would have been kind of cool and easy to do. So we'll see. Maybe there is, like, I would imagine that there's something Doom is referring to that you get later.
She gets the melee upgrade. She gets taught how to hit something over the head with her arm cannon.
Maybe she does. She gets the uppercut expansion.
That'd be so crazy.
I mean, you never know. Okay, well, one expansion
Chosen
that Samus...
one, we have bestowed to you this uppercut, this holy tradition from the Lemorne Empire.
Yes, her and Ryu training atop the same mountain for it. One expansion or power or ability rather that we do get is the control beam, which I keep on calling the psychic beam. So if I get that wrong, I'm sorry. How do we feel about the control beam? Because I think it's like been a lot better than I might have expected it to be, actually. Because I was a little bit worried when we saw it, like, this is going to be a little bit slow and janky. And, like, it's slow, but I feel like it controls really nice. It definitely does remind me of the Beetle from Skyward Sword. I think a lot of people pointed that out. Very fair comparable to make, but I feel like it's kind of like a cool little thing. You don't overuse it either, and luckily, you don't have to use it in combat, like, a whole lot. Obviously, the Carvex boss fight kind of notwithstanding there, but I do appreciate that everything does kind of slow down for you while you're getting to use it. I think it's been, like, pretty fun so far, like not offensive, I would say, and I was a little bit worried about this one. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think it's okay in Fury Green, and that's pretty much what I'm going to talk about. I will say later on in the game there are some wicked cool puzzles, including some really cool expansion puzzles that involve the control beam. So that really surprised me. I will say in Fury Green, it's pretty much about what I expected. It's pretty decent during the Carvex boss fight, but I think later on in the game, like, there's some really cool utilization of it that surprised me. But yeah,
I agree. Pretty much the same. I think for Fury Green, it's cool. Later in the game, it becomes more fun. I was expecting it to slow the game a little bit more, but you really don't use it so much where it feels that way. And if anything, like, there were definitely moments where, like, I was like, oh, what do I have to do here? Oh yeah, I forgot I have the control beam, and that happens. And it's also like not like, excuse me, it's not like super foolproof to control either. Like, it takes a little tiny bit of finesse, which makes it a little more fun. And then, I'm also thinking like, oh, like, it slows down time and I can attack multiple things at a time. Like, how can I use that to my advantage in a fight? Like, that kind of stuff is very fun. So I think it's a cool addition, and I'm excited for the more stuff that opens up with it later in the game that I haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of had a bad feeling about it, but and I was really curious to see how it worked in combat, specifically because I knew you needed it for the Carvex fight. And I guess let's just get there because we're kind of at the end of the opening act here. But so you get to fight Carvex, which is I think like another pretty strong boss fight. Definitely very Flagra coded. This boss fight, it feels like a total like not reinvention, but like homage to that fight. So I definitely scanned the vines just to be sure because I didn't know if there was a missable scan there or not. And there was something else in that fight too. I think there was two things that I scanned during the fight that are only attached to Carvex.
Yeah, there's the vines, and then there's the little spores that it shoots at you.
Oh,
Yeah.
I definitely didn't scan those. I should have thought about that.
So I'm hoping that I haven't missed any. But you know what? I actually, just jumping ahead just a really quick bit here. There's this really cool room right beside base camp as well that you can go and like see the bosses that you fight. And I would love for someone to tell me out there, like if this allows you to scan those bosses in case you missed them, or if it just gives you extra information about them. Do you know the answer to that, Doom?
I don't know. I will say with the bosses, it does give you an option to pop open that entry in your logbook. So I almost do wonder if that's like a little hidden way to be able to rescan some of those bosses. So yeah, I'm curious. Obviously, there are most certainly still some one-time scans in the game.
Yeah.
That are not attached to that room, but that's just. But yeah, I'm curious about that now. That's interesting.
I kind of don't think so because like. Maybe the vine and the whatever that Carvex shoots off aren't like logbook entries, but because if they were, it kind of defeats the purpose if you have 3 missable scans to only get 1. But it's a cool room nonetheless. It kind of adds context to the bosses. But anyways, going back to the Carvex fight, I thought it was pretty fun. A very good showcase for the control beam. Lots of like kind of cool like vines kind of whipping around and kind of like dipping and dodging throughout those was really fun to do. Pretty basic fight, I would think. I don't think it's until Volt Forge that the bosses really kind of step up to the next level. But again, as kind of like your intro boss fight, I thought that it was really fun and a good showcase for the control beam. So and just like something kind of cool, like knowing that it was a big homage to Flagra.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just to say, I also thought it was interesting. So. Obviously, when we first saw this boss, all of us were like, okay, that's totally possessed by one of Silex's Metroids. Like, you can see it. I thought it was really interesting. You don't get a cutscene that shows a Metroid possessing this, but when you scan it, it does mention that it has been possessed by one of Silex's Metroids.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting, that basically all of this happened off-screen, but little minor note.
I thought it was interesting how it's either from the scan of when you originally scan it, or when, like you said, in that room where you get to kind of look back at it, the lore behind it implies to me that the Carvex or something was like similar to something that happened on Talon 4. Like it mentioned, like almost like it's like a Leviathan almost, like, or it was affected by one or something. A Leviathan hit.
So there was
Viewros.
A poisonous meteorite that crashed onto the ground, and this plant like latched to this meteorite. And instead of the poison killing it, it evolved and it turned into this like...
It was like a sentient plant that was like attending events and stuff. I'm like, what is this talking about? But like the verbiage of, or like the specific wording of like a poisonous meteor, I was like, that has to be a Leviathan or something, right? Like that's anytime they refer to like poison in the Prime series, it's very obviously like a phase encoded type thing, which I thought was interesting. What I was not impressed by was, I mean, I guess you say it's like an homage there. I just think how it's like, I get it. It's a big jungly area, so having a big plant-based boss makes sense, but I just wish that they were trying to be a little bit more creative and not so obviously like ripping off Metroid Prime. It's like, oh, I have this big boss that's not Flagra, even though it very clearly is, and the boss fight is like very similar. I even have this critique that I get more into probably in the next episode, but like, so much of this stuff in this game is like reskins or redos of things from Metroid Prime 1 and 2. Like so much of it, to the point that it was like distracting. Like enemy is like, Yeah, I'm in the jungle area. There's the beetle, there's the parasite, there's the spore thing, there's the war wasp, and like it's like to the point where like their animations are the same and their attack routines are the same. And you get to this boss, like, could we have not come up with another cool plant-based enemy here that doesn't operate the exact same way as Flagra? And I would even say less impressively, because the Flagra is bigger, the room is bigger, the music is better, the character design is cooler, and then you have this thing, and I was like, this is kind of lame. Like, this is just like a weaker Flagra to me. I don't know. I wish the game was taking more risks in terms of its theme and like creative direction, because to me it's like a rehash of a game I just played on remastered but not as good. And I wish it was like, why am I getting these reskins? Why am I fighting the same enemy types that I've been fighting for years? Like, again, going back to like Dread, like it really shaked things up. I think certainly has like a lot of stuff that's common from previous Metroid games, but also shook things up drastically in terms of like enemy variety and looks and all that kind of stuff. And then I come to this game, like, really, we're going through the jungle area at the beginning again, and we're fighting the big plant boss again that has the exact same motif and the exact same fight. Like, that to me was a big letdown. I was not very impressed by this section of the game.
I 100% agree with the critique. I don't agree with it with Carvex, at least for me. I felt like it's definitely an homage to Flagra, but I feel like, I feel like it does. I feel like the fight itself plays out differently enough to where it stands out. I do agree when it comes to like the general enemy variety. I definitely have that critique though, for sure.
I mean, the Carvex fight is exactly the same as the Flagra fight, except that you have the moment where the vines go on the ground, you have to jump over them, which, like, big deal, like, if you get hit by that, you need to turn your game off. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it was the same boss fight, essentially, for one
in Flagra, you're defeating it by, taking out the panels and then going to Morph Ball and bombing it. With Flagra, you're very specifically attacking weak points and doing all that.
Well, that's what you're doing in the Carvex fight. You're attacking the vines that are in like it's quadrant a quadrant structure, just like the mirrors in Flagra, and you have to take down the weak point. Actually, if anything, it's very different
because the control beam adds in like specific moving targets that I feel like you have to fight. I mean, it's certainly an homage for sure.
I agree with that. It is slightly different, but like, I didn't feel like it was different enough for me to be like, wow, this is an impressive jump up from the first boss of the first game 25 years ago to me.
Well, that's fair. I mean, I don't agree, but that's fair. I feel like I don't agree about the enemy types either, and I feel like
you cannot agree, but they're objectively the same. They are objectively the same. You cannot be bothered by it. That's fine, but they are objectively the same, and it bothered me.
I mean, that's fair. I just don't care. And I think that there's like a lot. It's like they look spectacular. They function. Sure, they function like similarly, but
they function the same, Andy. No, you're not going to tell me they function similarly. There is a beetle that functions the same as the beetle. There is a what is it, the Shen or the whatever that functions exactly like the war wasp. There are spore enemies that function exactly like. You can say it doesn't bother you, but you can't tell me they're not the same. They are. You cannot. If you don't care, that's fine. But for me, I was like, you could at least change the movement or something. At least try to make it slightly different. There were many points where I'm like, this is a literal reskin of an enemy I just fought in Metroid Prime Remastered, that it took me out of it. I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I'm still fighting War Wasps 25 years later with the exact same animations and exact same movement patterns. Like, could we not jump in there one day and maybe change it up a little bit, change some of the values, something? Like, to me, it was almost a little egregious. Like, I'm still like, there are multiple parasites in this game that look exactly like the parasites on Talon and move the same.
Okay, we get it. We get it.
I'm just it bothered me a little bit because I'm like, I paid $70 for this game and I want to fight something new. Like,
you need to play a Doom game or something. Then I don't know what to tell you.
I will play a Doom game.
I feel like it was like a total non-issue for me, but again, that's just obviously two different sides of the spectrum here. Doom maybe somewhere in the middle. And I yours. I will say too, like the Carvex fight, like I think it's different, but like it is clearly like an homage.
Yes.
You can't.
I don't think it's bad. I just was kind of hoping for something a little more fresh.
And I think that's fair. Like I guess like for me, I'm kind of maybe, and it's because of like where we're at in the games, but like for me, I don't mind that the opening kind of areas is like more familiar to Metroid Prime, like more homage-y, I guess, if that's even a word. And then kind of like branches out into like some newer exciting stuff. Like, because I feel like Metroid Prime 4 for me does feel very like safe in terms of like a Metroid Prime game until you get to Soul Valley. And then I think it kind of starts opening up a little bit, and then you're kind of like, okay, this is what Metroid Prime 4 is kind of about. I mean, like, you're right. Like, there's a lot of the same. Like, there's war wasps. They're called something different in this game. I can't remember what they are.
Yeah, it's like a Shen or Shri or something.
They're even more annoying
like,
actually this time because they're harder to kill.
But like they come out of war wasp hives, and I'm like, yeah.
And there's a room in Fury Green actually where there's a bunch of these hives and you don't have missiles yet, which was nice. So you just like run past them. So not trying to say like I don't see where you're coming from. I do. There's a lot of the same enemy types. I think I'm just like so like they just look so great that I'm like okay, whatever, I'm down. You know, let's do it. I think the Carvex fight was good. I think the boss fights have improved a lot since getting out of Fury Green, and
I agree with that.
One last thing I will say about Fury Green as well is I think that the musical track from this game is going to be like from this area rather, is going to be like the one for Metroid Prime 4 that like everybody kind of points to as like being the best piece of music from the game. That's my gut feeling on it, because I think that it's the most like kind of impressive. It's like a mix kind of almost like the crashed frigate and like Phendrana a little bit almost. I thought the music was really nice. It's what we've seen in the trailers, but I think that this is going to be the piece of music from the game that people kind of point to as the title or the standout track for Metroid Prime 4. I don't know if you would agree with that.
It's probably right. I feel like it was that way even since the original reveal trailer. Like everyone was like raving about that little piece of the Fury Green theme, during that little section after the reveal. And then once we got, the fuller version of the theme, people were in love with that. And as they should be. It's a wonderful track. I don't know what my favorite piece of the music in the game is, but like I said earlier, I'm mostly impressed with the soundtrack, and God, it's so good to have a good Metroid soundtrack again. It's been too long.
It's been a long time.
100% agreed on that.
I have one musical critique coming up for 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks.
I also have a critique as well, but it's not relevant for this episode.
Yeah, same here. Yep.
I mean, I would say this just as like as kind of like the cap on our initial impressions. I was really happy with like the first call it like hour or so that this probably took place in. I thought that, I guess it's like a different perspective. Like I thought that it was nice to kind of have like some familiarity to ease you into everything. I was just blown away by like how good the game looks, how great it sounds. I was really happy coming into this game, and that might be because like a lot of the reviews that come out or the previews just kind of it made me like almost like prepare for the worst, and maybe my expectations were a little bit lowered here, but I was pretty happy. Again, definitely some things that I think that the game could do better, and certainly like your mileage is going to vary. Like if you are more into, if the combat has a higher emphasis for you on your overall enjoyment of the game, I could definitely see that being like maybe a weak spot of it. But I was pretty happy so far.
I think my only other critique of this early area is it is very, very linear.
Yes.
When you get the town over, I mean, you play Metroid Prime, and again, I'll just go back to that a lot because this game is so clearly inspired by it, but also because I played it a week ago. Forget Orpheon, very obviously linear, totally fine with that. But when you get to town overworld, it's linear in the aspect of like you can only go to so many places, but it has that feeling of like it branches out, and you're gonna like. When you get to Fury Green in this game, like you pretty much explore the whole thing immediately. Like aside from a couple rooms, like you experience the whole thing, and it's essentially a straight line, a right-hander, a straight line, and then a couple rooms, and that's it. So I kind of wish that it had a little bit more of that town overworld feel and I think this is true of a lot of the areas where like it does feel more like a a Zelda game, like a traditional Zelda game, or like a
Yes.
older Zelda game, where like you go to an area and you're going through the whole area pretty much in that first run. And maybe that's not as true for later areas, but at least in the first, for what I've played, that's been pretty true. Which is fine. It's not really the Metroid experience I was necessarily looking for, and certainly this is still a setup-y, like, you know, area that's meant to guide you towards the desert and go from there. I just kind of wish that there was a bit more, like, you get to the area and like see all these other branching paths that you could take and like know you're going to go back to those later. Whereas with Fear of Dream, it's really just like a couple extra doors and like expansions that you'll grab that you already are aware of, you know, and doesn't feel like there's a lot hidden behind it, which again, I could be wrong. But it is a little, it's too much of like a hallway going forward, a lot of it. And I wish it was a bit more than that.
100% agree. Yeah, I'll elaborate more in the podcast coming forward, but that's definitely a big critique I have with the game. I'll just say that.
Okay, well, we'll have to tune in to Act 2 of our review to see kind of what our thoughts are from here, and how the game is grasping us or not grasping us at this point. So next episode, I keep on wanting to say next week, but we will be back for a regularly scheduled Wednesday episode. We will be tackling Volt Forge, we'll be tackling Soul Valley, and of course Viola. And I am really excited to hear your guys' thoughts about Soul Valley and Viola. I have mine, and I mean, yeah, just very, very excited again. Just like, you know, flaws and all, warts and all. Just the fact that we're playing Metroid Prime 4 is so cool. I think, like, I just, in closing, I guess, like, I wonder how a lot of this discussion goes if, like, this game comes out on a normal timeline, you know, and it's coming out in, like, 2012 or 2013, you know, like, do most of these critiques vanish because it's like that weight of expectation is gone? I don't know. That's interesting to think about, though.
To some degree, absolutely, I think.
Yeah.
I think also, like, part of me is like, that's what should have happened, though. Like,
totally.
Metroid Prime 4 should have come out in 2010, 2011, 2012. I get Retro was burned out on it, but like the wait for this, like, way too long.
Yeah.
And I will go back. Maybe I was a little aggressive with my enemy variety critique, because like I play Halo games and I'm fighting grunts and elites every game. But so I'll tone that down a little bit. I know some people in the reviews, they don't like when I get too aggressive with my Metroid opinions, so I will reel myself back. But I do think that, like, yes, I think part of the weight, there is a weight to the weight, if that makes sense, right? Like, just those expectations and kind of like hoping for certain things, or like how like the game looks in your head compared to you know what it actually is. Because I mean, yeah, like, you know, if I, you know, some of the critiques that I have now, like, did I have those same critiques when I played Metroid Prime 2 and Metroid Prime 3, and they might have reused certain aspects or didn't freshen things up as much as I would have liked from a previous game? I don't know. I'm a little more jaded these days. I'm a little older. I've had more Metroid experiences. You know, I've had a lifetime of Metroid experiences. I've had a lifetime of gaming experiences, and there's been literally 18 years since before this one, right? Like, there's been more of a gap between this game and the previous game than there was the time it took for the original 3 games to come out, right? So certainly there's that expectation. I think there's also a part of it of like, we want the game to be as awesome as possible because we're such huge fans, right? Which is why it's great to talk about it, because I am so passionately both enjoying it and also have passionate critiques about it. And maybe I am being more critical of it in that way because of those reasons. So yeah, I definitely think that that's the case. And certainly, like, you know, if you got back to me, you know, and this game came out in 2011, would I be like having the same stuff to say? Probably not. But I also spent more money on this game than I did on those games in the past, and I wasn't buying my video game consoles back then. Now I am, so I'm trying to get more bang for my buck these days. So maybe that also has something to do with it. But
you know,
I would say, you know, yeah.
To your point, I was just thinking, like, I think the entire Metroid Prime trilogy came out in less time than when Metroid Prime 4 was announced to coming out. Right?
It did.
Yeah, that's
it
crazy.
Did, because it was 2001 and 2007. and
Yeah.
then this was 2018 to 2025. So literally, yeah,
That's
which is
wild.
which I think is more of a sign of just the state of the games industry in general than
Yes.
maybe
Yeah.
a critique on Metroid specifically.
I will say this
Yeah.
just to put a bow on my thoughts, then we'll get to you, Doom. But like the wait for this game, like the only other game in my fandom, like I'm sure there's other games that are like this, but like for me, the only other wait that I can compare this to is like Breath of the Wild, and like when you are subliminally already comparing like Metroid Prime 4 to a game like Breath of the Wild, which I know like maybe isn't like everyone's favorite game, but like that game was I think like one of the best games I've ever played. Like that's a hard bar to live up to, like when you're making those kind of like subliminal, correlations between those games. So almost like an impossible task, to be honest, for this game, but I'm happy with it so far. Doom, take us home.
Yeah, more than happy. John Otto, take it. No, we're not going to do that. Anyways, that's the first thing that came to my mind. But no, I think Dak, you put it perfectly. Where there's two different weights. There's one, the weight between Metroid games, and then of course the weight between the announcement of Prime 4 in and of itself. And I think to that, it's like almost impossible to like meet those kind of expectations. And I do think there is also a little bit of difference at play too. When I look, because obviously Prime 2 in particular has a ton of reused assets, but also that game came out 2 years after Prime 1. It was in development for almost a year and a half total. So it's like I'm also a bit more understanding of the asset reuse in something like Prime 2, and even Prime 3 to a lesser extent as well. Whereas this is a game that was in development for about 6.5 years. Yeah, about 6.5 years. When you're counting the retro reboot and all that. And so, when you do see more of the asset reuse there, it's something that definitely sticks out to me a little bit more. But at the same time, you also have, that weight between Metroid Prime 4. And so I think you put both of those two together, and that absolutely would affect my opinions. If this game, I think the big thing that comes to my mind is Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. Back then, I love Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. That's one of my all-time favorite platformers. Incredible game. But obviously, a lot of the talk of the town back then is like, oh my god, why are we doing another Donkey Kong game and not Metroid Prime 4? I feel like if Metroid Prime 4 was that 2013 Wii U, or actually no, 2014, excuse me, that 2014 Wii U slot, even though that would have still been a pretty lengthy wait from Prime 3. I don't think those highs and expectations that we've gotten now would have been anywhere near they were right now. And I think those expectations people still would have been excited and maybe disappointed in certain aspects, but certainly not as high as inflated as they were. And this isn't something I'm putting on everyone else. This is something I'm 1,000% guilty of going into this game as well.
I think there's also sorry, I know we want to wrap it up. I think there's also diminishing returns. Like if you play Metroid Prime 2 and you see something from Metroid Prime 1, you're like, all right, well, I like more of that. And then you see it again in Metroid Prime 3, you're like, okay, cool. But then you see it again, you're like, all right, it's time for a little freshening up. Thankfully, the game does freshen things up in other aspects. And again, I don't think it is something that sticks out to me. Like I have a list here. Like it's one of the things that stuck out to me was the enemy variety in the reskins. But do I think it's horrible? No. Do I understand why it is a thing? Yes. Ultimately, it goes back to Other M being the worst thing ever put out because it should have just been Metroid Prime 4 that came out in 2010. So once again, we can. If anything, I blame Other M for any critiques I have of this game. Is Other M's fault.
I will say, can you guys imagine if this game comes out on the Wii U? Like if it comes out in the Wii U era? Oh.
It comes out okay. It comes out on the Wii U, and Miles is calling you on the gamepad, and his face shows up on the gamepad screen anytime he wants to talk to you.
That's
Come on,
gnarly.
Come on.
The unmasked Miles, the one that everyone loves.
That's still in the era of Wii's and all the gizmos that Nintendo was. I could totally see you could buy a little watch with Miles's face on it.
Oh my god! Come on, where's that game?
That would be so.
Where's the Miles Me bobblehead?
Oh my! That's a critique I have of this game. The no more bobbleheads. Like Samus says, she just got rid of them. Like where are my bob? Or maybe they are still on her ship, but she doesn't have access to it. So maybe the game ends. She sits back down in her. Okay. This is how Metroid Prime 4 ends. She goes back to Talamar. She goes back to Talamar, whatever it is. She sits down in her cockpit of her ship. the other bobbleheads are there, and then she places one more bobblehead, and it's of Miles, and then she takes off. Come on, tell me that's not cinema right there.
Absolute cinema.
That's the 100% ending. Okay, you need to.
I want that so bad.
You need to grind.
I will say we've all been pretty critical about the game here. Maybe Dak and I to a greater extent. I just want to say I'm still really enjoying the game right now. Like,
Yeah, I'm still having fun.
Yeah.
let me be very clear about that.
I actually, to be honest with you guys, like I feel like I haven't been that critical at all, and call me a shill, but I'm just
paid.
like I feel like I'm still just basking in the. It's Metroid Prime 4. Like I can't believe it. Like we're finally here. Like, and yes, this game should have came out forever ago. Like it should have came out in like 2011 or 2012. And you're right, we should be on Metroid Prime like 7 by now. But like it took a long time, but we got here. So I guess that again, that's why I'm not like super fussed with some of the decisions to clearly like stick to a certain formula that has worked before. I think what makes a difference for me, obviously, is that like it's been such a long time between Metroid Prime games, so like you can kind of get away with that a little bit more. But I do have some critiques for sure. But I will say, like, I just overall, and again, I don't know if I was just like expecting it to be rough based on what we heard, but I'm having a great time. Like
I'm having a lot of fun. It's great. It's great to play. Am I impressed with every aspect of it? No. Am I still enjoying it and having a lot of fun with it? Yes, absolutely. And I wouldn't be looking forward to playing more of it if I didn't. And I think, truthfully, I think it's indicative of enjoying. If I didn't enjoy the game, I probably, unless it was horrendous, I wouldn't even care to critique it, because it wouldn't matter, unless it was horrendously bad, like a certain game, in which case critiquing it is fun, like I have these critiques because like I've been enjoying it, I've been paying attention, and these are things that are sticking out to me. But there's a long list of things, and I think we went through them today, like of how the game sounds and how it looks and the choices that it makes, that I think will cover more. And like this is the part of the game we're covering right now is, like you said, safe and pretty familiar. I think as we go further through the game, there's a lot more that the things that I enjoy the most about the game are past this section that we've talked about today. So that's why I feel like maybe I'm being a little bit more critical now than I will be going forward in the coming episodes. Whereas like there's a lot of stuff that I think like is hooking me a lot more, like Viola, for example, that just has not happened in the game so far of what we talked about. So I think that's an aspect of it too. Like we're talking about the very, beginnings of the game that I think are probably built more for a new fan.
Yeah.
Or someone who maybe like has only played Metroid a little bit compared to us who have played all these games many, many times. And so the familiarity is very much there. So I think that's something to keep into context too.
To kind of bounce off that.
Oh, sorry, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll be really quick. To kind of bounce off that, I think every single Metroid Prime game does something better than any of the other Metroid Prime games, and I think Prime 4 is no exception. And I think we're going to talk about some of those things next week. Let's just say that.
I'll say this. For those previews that came out, I would have much, much, much rather some of the negativity be like, man, we're using the same enemy types. We're using the same, like, slower combat style than freaking Myles MacKenzie. Let me just say that.
100%. And I think that's kind of also showing, like, it's kind of exposing those people a little bit because they don't notice those things that we're noticing. And they had, like, Miles was such a big thing, like, where to me and to us as more dedicated Metroid fans, there are other things that stuck out that I think would stick out to anyone who has been playing Metroid for a while. And you can kind of see, not that there's anything wrong with not being a dedicated Metroid fan. I'm welcome to anybody who wants to play the games, whether it's their first time, second time, third time, or 100th time. But I also understand that, we are different in terms of how we're covering the game versus an IGN or a Game Informer or, some of these other outlets or a podcast or like, Kit and Krista or something like that. Like all of these perspectives and backgrounds are very different, which is why it's always very important to take things with a grain of salt and try it out for yourself and enjoy it or not on your own accord and not what, based on what other people say. Unless you're listening to us, in which case we are the final word on anything Metroid.
Yes, clearly. Yeah.
Clearly.
We need to, if you're out there and you can commission us a Miles bobblehead, we need to talk. Okay?
I would, yes, if we can get the unofficial Miles bobblehead, please hit our DMs ASAP.
Reach out. Well, let's make something happen. Okay, there it is. Our initial impressions of Metroid Prime 4. This is much. I thought actually we'd come in on a Saturday, maybe do like 30-40 minutes kind of idea, but we are here for you, the fan. Yes, and we have served you with a full episode and then some, and we'll be back for our regularly scheduled Wednesday show, where again we are going to be covering the second kind of quarter of the game. So we'll talk Volt Forge, we'll talk Soul Valley and Viola. For anybody that's listening that maybe has never listened to the Omega Metroid podcast before, I want to take a quick second to let you know. Omega Metroid is a independent, we're a Metroid podcast. We have an independent site, omegametroid.com. We have lots of guides, we have news, we have thought pieces, we have maps, lots and lots of different stuff. It's a Metroid fan site made by Metroid fans for nothing else other than love of the Metroid games. So if you're playing and you want to check out some opinions or catch up on the latest Metroid news, or maybe you're playing some older games and you need a walkthrough or a guide, or just want to know where to find that one missile expansion, hit up omegametroid.com, check us out, tell your friends, and hey, tell them there is a podcast here that does a Metroid show weekly. We are the only podcast in the world that is doing this. So
in the universe, as far as we know.
Yes. Safe assumption, I would think. So, hey, the best thing you could do for Omega Metroid is tell people about us, spread the word, and of course subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and like and all that kind of good stuff. The other thing that we have is a Patreon. So patreon.com/spnet. There's a branch of a couple different podcasts that I do under that Patreon. So the Zelda Cast, a weekly Zelda podcast, Virtual Theater, which is a podcast about video game movies, and of course, Omega Metroid. So if you want, go and check that out. There is like 100 bonus episodes there that are not released on the main feed. We've ranked every single area in the Metroid series. We've done ROM hack reviews. We have got one of my buddies playing Metroid for the very first time. In fact, the final episode of Gooey Plays Metroid just dropped for patrons, so go and check that out. So patreon.com/spnet. A couple bucks, $4 gets you in the door for hundreds and hundreds of episodes, and it's a great way to support what we do. So, and the last thing I'm going to tell everybody is give us a follow over on Blue Sky, at Spiteri316, at Doom Cross, at Dax City, and of course at Omega Metroid. Again, tell your friends about this show, tell your friends about this podcast. We're coming back not next week, in a few days. To talk about the next section of the game. So
I have one more thing. I'm sorry. I know you're wrapping up and you're doing your spiel, but I wanted two things. First of all, I'm also streaming the game on Twitch, twitch.tv/DaxCity_. But the biggest thing I wanted to shout out is the incredible content and writing team that we have at the moment, led by Rod, who has been doing, the whole team, a phenomenal job with like crushing it on the site in terms of news and new posts. There's been so much to talk about. I wanted to give a huge shout out to them because they're working super hard. They are volunteers. They're not getting paid to do this, and they are putting so much awesome stuff on the OmegaMetroid.com site, covering it. I mean, Doom, I know you're helping. I know we have Rick in the back there. We got Griff. We got Pikmin. We got a bunch of other people that I'm forgetting.
I volunteered my wife to start writing articles.
Yes. And all led by by Rod, who's doing an amazing job.
Yes.
We have a bunch of new members of the team as well. So I wanted to shout them out because they are doing a lot of amazing work. Be sure to check it out at OmegaMetroid.com because it is awesome. It is not just your number one spot for podcasts, but also, like Andy said, for news and everything going on in the Metroid universe. So I just want to give them a quick shout out because they've been working their buns off around this launch time, and I think they are getting some much deserved credit, but I wanted to give them some more. So that's the one shout out I wanted to sign off with.
Heck yeah.
100%. Especially because I feel like we've gotten more post-launch news than any of us were expecting to, with like all the merchandise.
Yeah.
I think we were all expecting like, maybe a launch trailer, NSO icons, but like there's been like so much merch and like a bunch of other news stories that have been happening post-launch. But no, the entire team has just been killing it. We've also gotten a couple of musings out there. We started putting those back on track. So yeah, a huge shout out to all the writers. Y'all are the real MVPs. And of course, Rod, who's been doing such a fantastic job managing all of us.
One last thing, because I'm going to shout out Doom here as well. Check out our YouTube page. You can see these episodes full video form if you want to as well. There's also some great video walkthroughs there as well, and we've got some shorts rolling out. So lots of different stuff going on in the Omega Metroid world. We thank you guys for listening. We hope that you will spread the good word. Tune in on our regularly scheduled day of Wednesday, and we'll have Act 2 kind of impressions there, and we're riding this Metroid Prime 4 train for the next, the foreseeable future here. So lots of content coming out. Again, thank you so much to everybody for listening. We are going to get out of here, but we'll see you next time. Until then, take care.